Help is on the Way for Orchestra is my first orchestral work. It's a symphony. I'm trying to get it performed this June 2024, or at the very least in my lifetime. In this video, I'm going to share what I've accomplished this week. Okay, so if you watched my previous video, I think it's called Announcement to Subscribers, anyone can watch, you will remember I had a strategy. The strategy was to share and just basically just scream. That's the first step, is to just scream. Not but just like this, just like share. I have to say that this strategy is working vociferously, much more than I could have ever imagined. I did not know things would take off this quickly. It is very possible they will plateau, who knows, but I'm very, very surprised. So, pleasantly surprised. I want to first say thank you to everyone for the wonderful suggestions. And in part, the second half of this video, we will go over some of the suggestions. They are all incredible, by picking a couple that will be discussed. I think a lot of the suggestions are more medium, longer term, like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, which is very, very good. But we also need immediate solutions, and I do have them for the very end. I like to share what I've done the past week. So something you should know, I need to compose every day. I like to compose every hours. I have to work a job. So my time to fight for the symphony is limited. Most days, I could definitely do 20, 30 minutes, like an action, like an email or a call. But I can't do that much more. So I have to be very, very, very judicious. So this past week, I first contacted newspapers in New Jersey. I started with my local newspaper and then branched out to more regional newspapers. And I have a story to tell, right? So I'm a Jersey native. I've left many times for my education, but I've come back, partly because I was forced to. But I went to France and I got extra skills. And then I came back and finished my symphony. How many people from Jersey have composed symphonies? How many people are just capable of composing a symphony? So I think there is a huge story to say, like, this Jersey native left, got this training, and came back and composed a symphony. Okay? I think that's a huge story. As far as reception, I don't get the impression that the newspapers really see the magnificence of the story. Maybe I have to do a better job of selling it. I've gotten some support from my local newspaper, but they haven't reached out yet to actually do an interview. And I think the reality is sometimes we have gold. For example, I have here, this is Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, which was a big inspiration for Help is on the Way. And I think sometimes in societies, there are people who have gold, who have immense things to offer, but the society is not capable of recognizing it or reacting. And I firmly believe that, in a couple of years, once this really takes off, they'll be like, oh my God, yeah. But what I'm looking for are the people right now who sense that there's something great. There is something great in Help Us on the Way. There's something different. Even the title, Help Us on the Way. How is it is Help Us on the Way? Right? There's so much. But I just don't think... I don't know. We'll see where things go. Maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll start following back with them. But I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. Next, I contacted a director of a youth symphony here in Jersey. So I used to play tuba, and I played tuba. My first orchestra actually was in a youth symphony in New Jersey, and with a different conductor. I recently reached out to them, and I said, hi, my name is Barney, and I used to play in the symphony. And that was about a month ago. Didn't get a response from the director. And then recently, I called again to the office. I found out her hours. I called again. Couldn't reach her, left a voicemail. Again, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. I cannot wait around forever. I will be going directly to the competition. The reality is, sometimes when people start, there are people that sense the greatness. They sense, okay, there's something special here. There's something different here. And they take a chance, or at least have a meeting, and they say, okay, well, I can't help you here, but try this. And others just are too busy. Okay, and of course, that is the eternal excuse in today's society. I'm too busy, too busy, too busy, too busy. But would you be too busy if you thought that was Beethoven? If Beethoven was alive right now, and we didn't have his music yet, different society, would people be able to recognize that they had Beethoven before them? I don't think so. And I know it seems like I'm comparing myself to Beethoven, but listen, yes, I am comparing myself because I studied the Sixth Symphony, okay, which was a model. It's also in 5 movements, just like Help Is on the Way. And I firmly believe that Help Is on the Way is on the same level, if not superior, to the Sixth Symphony, the Pastoral Symphony of Beethoven, okay? But we got to hear it live, then we can form an opinion and wait a couple hundred years. Next, I want to talk about the publicity that I've done. So on the official channel, we have an Instagram. I haven't been using it as of late, but things change very quickly. So if you've been following me on the official account for Instagram, I shared the shock I felt when I had applied to a competition here in Jersey for, I don't know if it was just for Jersey composers, but organized by a certain symphony here in New Jersey. I didn't win the competition. There were, I think they chose 5 or 6 people, and mine was not chosen. Help Is on the Way, it took me 7 years to compose. Okay, and the first movement, which is called A Safe Home, which is why I submitted, I probably worked the most in that movement. I've just cleaned it up, revised it so many times. I perfected it. There's not a shred of ego in that work. So I was really upset I didn't get it. I get it. It's not personal. There are political factors that often go in decision-making process. We can't really discuss that here, but I was surprised by how strong the response is. I think a lot of people have been in a situation where they really feel like they were the best one and they didn't get it. And to be honest, who knows? But sharing that, I got a lot of good response, and it's kind of stumbled into more videos. I did get feedback from a fellow composer that the tone for some of them was inappropriate, that I just seemed like whiny or just unprofessional, and that if he were in a position of power in an orchestra, that they would be like, no way, we're not going to hire this guy. I'm not going to work for this guy. That could be possible. At the same time, I think in today's society, you have to do what you have to do. You have to scream. You have to get your name out there. And quite frankly, when I close my mouth and just try to play nice, I don't get anywhere, okay? So it remains to be seen, but at the end of the day, ultimately, if you've watched the video, the message to subscribers, I gave the final solution for Help Is on the Way. I think that kind of gets us out of that quagmire of having to always be scared of expressing ourselves. But we'll see. It is useful feedback. I've also been showing the life of the composer, showing what I've been working on the official channel. So that's more of part of a larger strategy to kind of normalize, I could say, I don't know, what it means to be a composer. A lot of people don't really know what it is. We're about to get to the wonderful suggestions that you have submitted to me. I'll talk about some of them, but I want to first mention we have a new Instagram called Help Is on the Way for Orchestra. Just the only goal of this is to get a program. It's not just to get a program once, though, because a lot of times the first performance is not excellent. A lot of times the recording isn't excellent, and there's also a danger if the orchestra does not work with me, that the interpretation will not be accurate and it'll give a bad impression of my symphony. So I think the real goal is to get it to the point where the orchestras are just performing Help Is on the Way on its own. Okay, they recognize that there is a for-profit motive because we're going to fill up the hall. New people are going to enter the arts. There is a for-profit motive for them to program Help Is on the Way for Orchestra. On this new Instagram, it's called Help Is on the Way for Orchestra. I have gotten so many followers so quickly. I don't even know why or how. I didn't know this many people cared. It's very heartening. It gives me hope. So if you want more play-by-play of what's going on, then check it out. I have an announcement to make as well because of the strong support I'm getting. I'm really surprised. I don't know where it's going to go. Maybe it'll plateau. Maybe it'll flood. But because of that, I'm launching a specific YouTube channel just for Help Is on the Way. So that way you can get more informational videos. The channel will be very direct. It's not going to be, I won't be teaching on that channel. The educational component of Barney Music will stay here. What the Fugue, Harmony for the General Public. Of course, I'll continue showing my compositions, my process. It'll be, it's a kind of slower paced channel versus the Help Is on the Way for Orchestra channel. We're going to have videos that are going to be very direct, quick. Maybe they'll be longer, but there's like a clear goal. Gotta get a program, gotta get a program, not just once, but many orchestras, okay? Because I want a good performance, and you never know if you'll get the good performance. Also, you have to be very careful in today's age of cancel culture that you can loot for any reason. At this point, you say the wrong thing, you make a mistake, you can get your deprogrammed right away. Right away. So it's very scary. So I want a plethora of opportunities so everyone can hear Help Us on the Way for Orchestra, not just people in New York City or New Jersey. Everyone can hear Help Us on the Way for Orchestra live. So check out that channel if you want to see just Help Us on the Way. But if you like how things are, then just stay on this channel, or you can do both. Okay, I'd now like to discuss the suggestions that have been coming in. So I think I showed it. Here are about 12 to 13 suggestions that I've compiled from the comments and everything that people have been sending me. Again, thank you so much. I will not be discussing all of them in this video because I want to keep it a little bit concise and short, but we will get to them. Don't you worry, or hopefully. First, I want to talk about the MIDI. A lot of people have mentioned, get a MIDI recording. So for those who don't know, a MIDI is like a computer-generated mock-up of the symphony. All right. And they say I should get it. It would be easier to get people interested. People probably don't want to take a chance on the symphony if they don't know if they're going to like it or not. I have a number of concerns of this, but listen, I can be changed. My opinion is not fixed in stone, but it is quite strong how I feel. Just as a composer, I have to say if I was teaching composition students, I would not allow them to use MIDI. Okay, if I can't stop them, but I would say you have to show me a handwritten score, because I find when people compose for MIDI that they often compose for a computer, for what sounds good in a computer. So certain music sounds great for a computer. It's one of the reasons why pop music, it always has certain cliches, right? Okay, but something that's organic as Help Us on the Way, or like Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, I don't think they're going to sound good in a computer. I don't like how my work sounds in a computer. I don't think it gives an accurate representation. And what more importantly, I feel that if I were to release excerpts from the computer, it's just going to give a bad impression and people will think it's not good. Okay? I think though maybe it could be more immediately successful, I think long term it could really, really hurt my chances. But the rebuttal I've heard to this is that you can get them professionally done. You can pay someone to get a realistic sound of the symphony. I'm sure it's really expensive, so it's not quite in the budget just yet. But, maybe longer term, it could be possible. I also have a MacBook 13, which is really, really old. So maybe, but what I really think would be the quickest way forward, find someone who wants to program it, so spread the word. But also, I don't know. I think also what could be helpful would be even a reading or a rehearsal and then recording it or recording excerpts and releasing that. Even if it was just on my phone, like a poor quality, I think the aliveness that you'll feel, the energy, right? There's some orchestra, there's some recordings from the 1950s of Beethoven where the recording quality is awful, but it's like people will still listen to them because of the aliveness of it. Okay, so that's another reason I'm very worried about the MIDI, is because you don't have that aliveness. You'll never have it. AI will never ever be able to compete with a live orchestra. Never, ever, ever. But let me know what you think. Let me know because as you probably see, composers, we can be very idealistic, very purist, and what I need is a heavy dose of reality. A heavy dose of reality. I would like to talk about one other suggestion that has been coming through, and then we'll end with the immediate solutions. So again, thank you everyone who has been giving suggestions. They are all very helpful, and especially the obvious. Never, ever forget the obvious, because a lot of times we avoid the most obvious direct solution, like contact the director, call the director. Oh, but I never thought. So it does. If something inspires you, then just say whatever. I'm gonna listen. We want to hear this performed live. All right. So people have been saying, sending me some competitions I can apply to. It is helpful. Some of them I had never heard of, but at the same time, I have limited time. I only have 20 or 30 minutes a day to do action. And competitions are very time consuming, and I'm not sure. I just don't know if Beethoven were alive, would the composition committee be able to detect that it was Beethoven? Do you know what I mean? Like, not, well, I'm concerned that some people wouldn't recognize, but still, I don't know if they can recognize the greatness of Helpless on the Way. Helpless on the Way has a lot of simplicity in it, but that is what is beautiful. There's parts where if you look at the page, it seems like repetition, but there's these subtle changes that you would have to hear or have a good ear to imagine. There's just a lot in Helpless on the Way that I don't think, if you're just looking at the score and not really hearing it, I don't know if you could appreciate it. There's things in the orchestration, that means how I chose the instruments to play the chords, that are totally innovative, but they're not things, if you're just looking at the page, they might not hit you. Okay? So we'll see about the competitions. I'm just concerned that it's not the most judicious use of time, given the limited amount of time I do have. Again, my strategy is to strike every day. 20, 30 minutes, just take one action, one phone call, one email, and just slow and steady wins the race. Okay? I do want this performed this June 2024, which is coming up. Another thing people were suggesting were to reach out to certain orchestras. So I have a friend, a colleague from grad school, who suggested I go contact a certain orchestra. This orchestra had conducted her first work. Something she mentioned to me that was a bit sad is that she only had one performance ever of her orchestra work. I don't know when it was performed, but I'm assuming it's a couple of years ago. That is a big danger we have with Helpless on the Way. You get one performance, people get lazy after that, right? It's like, oh, well, we performed the symphony, we're done. But the first performance is often not the best performance. Another thing we have to be careful of is perhaps someone says, okay, we'll perform the symphony, but they shut you out of the creative process. I have found that very detrimental to my performances. I always need to be part of the rehearsal process. I need to come in at some point and shape it. I've had lots of feedback that is very helpful. So this is, again, why just one performance is not going to cut it. We need multiple. It needs to be fleshed out. The piece needs to grow. Okay. Yes, I transcribe the music of the heavens. Okay. I don't know where this music comes from. I don't know. I think it's from another planet. I transcribed it. We see it composed, but I literally just had to listen. Okay? So I don't even know the piece. The piece knows itself. I don't know if that makes any sense. That makes some sense. But I have to say that when this friend reached out to me, this colleague reached out to me and said, contact this orchestra. They may not have an opportunity right now, but try going to their shows. They're very friendly. That's going to help. This kind of informal kind of word-to-word information, kind of like information that's passed through the family, or, like in dance, information gets passed like word-to-word, like you show, like you can't just write it down, right? That is very, very helpful. I wouldn't have thought to do that. And another thing is, now when I contact this orchestra, that I can name drop, right? I can say, hi, my name is Barney. My friend or my colleague, blah, 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 suggested that I contact you about opportunities. And when I have that name drop, it's more likely that they're going to respond. To end, I want to give some final remarks. I think the immediate solution in regards to Helpless on the Way for orchestra is to keep blasting and blasting and blasting and blasting and blasting and blasting, okay, through the social media channels, okay? And now with the new channel, Helpless on the Way for orchestra, it'll be another venue, another area. The videos tend to stay up longer. So I think just blasting, and more people will, if they want to, can give advice. I wasn't expecting people to give advice. I was really, really pleasantly surprised at all the advice that people were giving. Keep it coming or not. But that's so generous. I was not expecting that. And I think If I just fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight, and remember the goal, it is not just one performance. It's to get it to be in the repertoire. So in Arizona, they get to program it. Maybe the work will be misunderstood in my own home state, New Jersey, but maybe another area of the country will understand. There's a long history of that. We know Merce Cunningham, who was a great choreographer, was not discovered till he went to Paris. Then they were like, oh, you're amazing. And then America realized, right? So maybe I have to go to another country. Who knows? All right. I hope you found this wondrous, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for supporting Help Is on the Way for Orchestra.